What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do as a home building journalist about whether or not the kid down the road can hack into your water heater and turn down the temperature so that you have a cold shower? Other than talk about it on the podcast.
This came across my Google feed, and it's from a reporter by the name of Kevin Purdy, and it was in arstechnica.com, and it was fascinating, and I'll give you guys a taste here. He says, the hot water took a long time to come out of the tap. This is what I was trying to solve. I did not intend to discover that for a while there, water heaters like mine may have been open to anybody. That with some API tinkering and an email address, a bad actor could possibly set his temperature or make it run constantly. Right? Are you intrigued? So he installed this on-demand water heater and wanted an app to control it to make it less of a wait for hot water. So he did that. He said, I now had an app that could start recirculation. Being a home automation nerd and thereby a home assistant enthusiast, I searched for a better way. I found an unofficial Rinnai component and installed it. And then I had real control. I could set recirculation to run whatever schedule I wanted. So if everything worked great, why am I still writing? Because I contacted the coders behind the integration, thinking I might write out my fun little hotter water quicker adventure. Maybe I'd learn more about what motivates the folks doing this useful work for free. This added a surprising second and surreal third part to my one-act play. I emailed and spoke by phone with integration author Brad Barber, who, like me, wanted to make his Rinnai brand tankless water heater better. Barber lives where freezing temperatures are uncommon and wanted to automatically keep hot water circulating every so often whenever the temperature dropped into pipe freezing range. The first version of Rinnai's official app, Control R, left a big gap, he said. Only one account could be signed in, and you could only set up time schedules, not automate. Barber, wanting to craft his own solution, started watching the app's network traffic to see if he could do better. He and Daniel Dullett, a GitHub of GitHub, observed that you could control any connected Rinnai water heater with the account's email address. The two prepared a security advisory for Rinnai, noting, knowing only your email address, I can set your water heater's temperature to very cold or scaldingly hot. I can put it into recirculation mode continuously so that it uses a lot of gas. I can see your home street address that you've entered into the Control R app when you registered your water heater. After trading a few emails with the PR firm that works for Rinnai, I heard back from a representative who said that the Rinnai firm, quote, would like to pass on the interview opportunity that you included in your article. He says, I did not request or offer an interview. Rinnai did, however, quote, appreciate that you are a new homeowner and current customer. So the answers to my questions were provided, but were written from a customer service perspective for personal knowledge. Only Kevin Purdy, water heater owner, had access to the provided text, not Kevin Purdy, the journalist. Mark Ostrowski, head of engineering at Checkpoint Software, noted that appliance vendors working with open source operating systems can design, build, and ship devices that have vulnerabilities by the time they arrive in a customer's home. Patching and updating the systems is often difficult and typically left to the customer to initiate. So, Brian, your reluctance to home automation is probably for good reason. I think you'd agree.
You know, it's so interesting that I totally check out when the conversation, when the information goes to like things like cybersecurity and stuff. It just, I find it like it's I don't know where the disconnect is, but I mean I'm interested in home automation to the degree that it's useful for us as builders and designers and homeowners to make homes operate better and easier and maybe add durability and limit emergencies, you know. But as soon as it goes to cybersecurity, what am I going to do about cybersecurity? What am I going to do as a home building journalist about whether or not the kid down the road can hack into your water heater and turn down the temperature so that you have a cold shower? Other than talk about it on the podcast.
Well, it's
Mike, you were nodding like you expected this all along, and I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I've known this for years. It was pointed out in many things I've read, just in online networking, discussion boards and things about the Internet of Everything, connecting all of our lifestyle devices from refrigerators to heating systems and everything in between. So this may be going back 4 years ago. You're familiar with the Sonos speaker systems?
Yeah.
That people have. So I have one. So I have the app on my phone. I was at a friend's house and I was visiting for several days. So I got their Wi-Fi code so I could do some emails. And I noticed when I looked at the connection, I could get into their Sonos and their refrigerator. So just to play with them, we're sitting there having dinner one evening, and they had on some classical music on the Sonos playing on the patio. And all of a sudden it starts playing, AC/DC. And they're like, that thing's screwing up again. So they'd switch it back, and then I'd hit, some REM or something. And they're just like, I can't believe this is happening. And it was all because all I needed to do was be able to log into their network, and I had control over their refrigerator and I had control over their Sonos, and they had no clue what could be done. And I don't know if it goes back to the open source operating systems that all of these work on, or if it's just because it's connected and the engineers who design it figure that none of us would be smart enough to realize, in the case that Kevin Purdy pointed out, that just by knowing the email that was utilized for the Rinnai connecting device, that you could control your neighbor's equipment.
So I reached out to technology home integration expert Mike Bennett, who was on the Pro Talk podcast a couple years ago. And here's what he said. This is one of the things that is scary and unfortunate. You can't do much about it on the consumer side besides reading reviews and trusting the more well-known manufacturers. I'm glad there are people who are out there paying attention and actively looking for vulnerabilities in today's technology. Unfortunately, vetting an app or Internet of Things or smart home device is much more involved than simply reading online reviews. My advice would be, if this is the first time the manufacturer has offered a connected device, I would hold off or do some further investigating on it before installing it. Oftentimes, a water heater manufacturer, for example, isn't going to make its own Wi-Fi chipset or even write its own software for it. So sometimes the manufacturer may represent who they partnered with for this integration. In that case, you can read the reviews of that company who's helping with the software. Also, read online reviews and App Store reviews, and look for things that have integration with other platforms. If the device is claiming to be compatible with Apple HomeKit, Samsung SmartThings, or Google Home, then there is some level of standards that they have to build into their software. When the manufacturer does not offer any of those integrations, it may be telling that they are not putting much money or effort into their software, which would make me a bit skeptical. Lastly, I would make sure we're all using common sense. Do not use the same password on your IoT things as you do for your banking. Ideally, every password should be different, but I am human, so I know that is seemingly impossible. If you do see any security advisories, or if you ever have some sort of issue with unintended operation of your internet device, disconnect it. The easiest way to do that is to unplug the Ethernet cable if it has one, or change your Wi-Fi name and password, as the device will no longer be able to connect to your home network unless you go back through the setup process. So there you go, folks.
There's another thing that I learned that you can do too, if you do have your devices connected through a router, is some routers will enable you to set up multiple networks through the router. So you can set up a dedicated network which has its own password, so that you don't share with your friends who are a little bit mischievous. Your open the maybe a single network, single that everybody could log into. That way you've got it sort of isolated from nefarious neighbors.
And if you have Mike coming over, you're going to want to change that so your fridge doesn't turn off and your AC/DC starts playing.
And don't let him near your router with the master code written on the back.